Mr. Devine has some changes to the program of studies that he's recommended, and I've worked with Mr. Devine and reviewed all of these with him, and I think you'll be pleased with his recommendations.
Thank you. I can tell you the guidance staff at the high school was very happy that this meeting was taking place tonight, because this is the first step in our scheduling process, and they were getting a little nervous if we weren't going to be meeting until after April vacation, what we were going to be doing. So every year I come to you with any proposed changes in the program of studies. You have in your packet a copy of the program of studies with track changes. You also have a one-page summary. The changes and the additions are not substantial this year. There are a couple new course descriptions. What happened with the math, you're going to see a lot of them have to do with math. When the new Massachusetts frameworks were implemented a couple years ago, we, like most school systems in Massachusetts, were a little under the gun. We were a little behind the 8 ball to try and get our students where we needed to be. So what happened is we divided up Algebra 1 into 2 courses, Algebra 1 Linear, Algebra 1 Quadratic. Starting at the middle school, the students in an ideal path would take, most of the students would take Algebra 1 Linear as 8th graders. Some would take, the more talented mathematical students would take Algebra 1 Quadratic as 8th graders, and then there'd be a small group taking pre-algebra as 8th graders. So ideally they'd come to the high school. Most kids would be taking Algebra 1 Quadratic. The top tier students would be taking geometry as freshmen, and then the students who struggle more in math would take Algebra 1 as freshmen. So we called it Algebra 1, but what we've realized we needed to do is those freshmen who come in, we still need to have it as Algebra 1 Quadratic and Algebra 1 Linear. We have to do that over 2 years. Unfortunately, it is going to involve the students doubling up in math during one of those years, probably their sophomore year, to get them ready for MCAS 2.0, which is coming down the pike. So you're going to see a lot of the language that's changed has to do with the Algebra 1 course, and that's a brief description of why. You're also going to see we're adding back honors calculus. Last year we offered AP calculus and CP calculus. We want to put honors calculus back in just really to gauge student interest. For all of these courses, there's no guarantee that they will run. It's all based upon the amount of students who request the course. Statistics and probability and statistics, the addition there is the UMass college system. The UMass universities have said that you must have algebra, geometry, Algebra 2, and an upper level math course. The survey of math course that we did a few years ago, which we did for our students who struggled with math but needed that 4th year of math for their diploma, would not be considered an upper level math by the UMass system. So we want to put another math course in that's not calculus, it's not survey, it's somewhere in the middle that would be considered an upper level math course for the students looking at the state university system. So that's where statistics is. You're going to see some deleted courses. Some of that has to do with staffing and different needs of the school. Foundations English, you'll see. I know the question about Foundations English is we now offer the TIDES English class. When we look at our student population, right now anyway, we are have a greater needs for a TIDES class, class for students who struggle with emotional disabilities, than the Foundations class. Most of the students that we have can be served by either modifications in our regular ed English classes or access the TIDES classes. We do have a couple students who would access in the TBL program a much more life skills type of English. So that's that change. The renamed courses, I remember we talked a little bit about this last year, our 21st Century Political and Economic Responsibilities. We've heard from the colleges and universities that, number one, it doesn't fit on our transcript, and they don't really know what we're talking about, so they don't know how to look at it. So we are changing it back to American politics and economics. Some modified course descriptions there. Those are just teachers wanting their courses to be better described in the program of study. The NCAA disclaimer, the NCAA must approve our courses. If we were to have a student who were to go and play on the collegiate level, their transcript is reviewed by the NCAA clearinghouse. The clearinghouse, whenever we change our program of study, we submit our program of study to the clearinghouse, and the clearinghouse decides we are going to accept this course, we are not going to accept this course. So you can see this is just some language that the NCAA or the MCAA, I'm sorry for the typo, wanted us to put in handbooks that basically say if you take a course using virtual high school, that does not meet the NCAA requirements. Then you'll also see in there the revised SAT descriptions. As we've talked about, the SAT is changing substantially. We took out the old language about the SAT reasoning test and put in much more specific language about what the students will be facing, many of them for the first time faced this past weekend. And then the late edition that I sent was Mr. Donahue has approached us about offering an anatomy and physiology course, which would be a great, great course for us to offer. With our numbers, this might be the year we're able to pull that off. You may have noticed that in there, it does talk about dissection of a mammalian species being an integral part of the class. And we believe it is. It's very important. In 2005, the Massachusetts Department of Elementary and Secondary Education implemented a policy that says if a student's parent puts in writing that they do not want their child to be involved with the dissection, then the school district must make alternative arrangements for the student to provide mastery. So we would follow that policy from DESE.
Do you offer virtual dissection?
You know, we haven't had dissection other than worms in quite a while, at least since I've been here. We've done some things with sheep brains. We've never done a full animal. So really, I went to Mr. Donahue today, and we had a conversation, and he's going to be looking into what are the resources out there. I did a little bit of digging this weekend, but he's much more of an expert on it than I am. There's a lot out there, and I would be turning to Mr. Donahue to say, what is your recommendation for the best program out there?
Thank you.
So I'm free if there are any questions that members of the committee have.
I'd ask, in terms of the NCAA disclaimer, not that it really matters, but is it only the credit recovery coursework that doesn't count, or is it if you took, say, an AP class through the virtual high school, would that not count as well?
So, for example, the NCAA requires that students take and pass 4 years of English. If you took English 9, 10, 11, and 12, and you did all of those, and you passed NCAA, fine. So let's say you failed junior English and you took credit recovery during the summer through virtual high school to regain your credit, the NCAA is saying, no, you need to repeat the course.
Okay. But in terms of some of the, I guess, the elective courses?
The elective courses, they're good, because those typically don't meet graduation requirements.
Okay.
And the NCAA really is just focused on English, math, science, social studies.
Okay. All right. No, I don't have any further questions. This look good. Anyone else?
I just was looking through, and I was just curious if you could just talk about the two different diplomas that you offer, level A and level B, and how that's distinguished, because I'm just curious if students are kind of going through and then there's a shift and they want to move from level B or level A, or like, how does that happen? Is that a discussion? How do kids kind of, I don't know.
Sure. Just to be clear, the level A, every student comes in here on a level A diploma track. We want every student to earn the level A diploma. Level A diploma is 4 years of English, 4 math, 4 science, 4 social studies, 4 semesters of wellness, and then other credits adding up to about 140 credits. We continue to struggle with students who are dropping out of high school. I came to the committee, I want to say it was 3 years ago now, and asked about the level B diploma, which is still 4 years of English, that's state law, 3 math, 3 science, 3 social studies, 1 year of foreign language, 1 year of art, 1 year of technology, and a 1-year internship equaling 126 credits. The philosophy behind it was that the 4, 4, 4, and 4 really is driven by the colleges. That's what the colleges want to see. If we have a student who we know is not college bound, then we wanted it to be more of a generalist diploma, which is why the tech courses, the foreign language courses, the art courses, and the internship were added to that. So what happens is typically it's after sophomore year, if a student has multiple failures their freshman year, you can still be on the A diploma track, you can recover it. It involves some summer school and some doubling up and things like that, but you can do it. If that pattern of failures continues during sophomore year, then typically the summer between sophomore year and junior year, or at the very beginning of junior year, we sit down with the student and their families and we look at the options. So it's not something we do lightly. but I will tell you that I can think of, between last year's graduating class and this year's graduating class, at least a dozen students who, if we held them to the requirements of the B diploma, would have dropped out of high school. So I would much rather have them have a diploma that only required 3 years of science than have them be a dropout because they couldn't get past the 4th year of science. So that's the philosophy behind it, and that's how we do it.
Thank you for explaining.
Welcome.
Yeah, I was going to ask, I know this is a program we've had for about 3 or so years. I remember when you came and introduced us. About how many a year do we tend to give?
Last year was really the first year because it took a little while for it to go up. Last year, I have to go back and look, Mr. Hip. I believe it was 5 last year. This year, I believe it's 8. It might be 9. We do have a couple who are on the fence right now who, depending on how term 4 goes, will determine whether they have an A or a B diploma.
Thank you.
Mike, thank you for addressing the Foundation's English that you
Welcome.
dropped it. I had a question about that. Is the dialogue between middle school and high school helping with being able to drop that kids are more prepared getting up into the high school with English, being prepared for high school English, starting from the middle school? Is that one of the factors that allows you to drop this?
It's one of the factors. The kids are coming up more prepared. There's no question about that. Really what it is there was for lack of a better word, a bubble of students with more significant disabilities.
Right, yeah.
Those students are now graduating and moving on, where we, again, still have a couple with the significant disabilities who really, even with modifications, it wouldn't work in a regular classroom. So we're able to service them and get them their English and math educations in the TBL program.
Right, right.
We have an outstanding teacher in the TBL program right now who's able to do that. So it's more than anything, it was that bubble.
Okay.
Now, looking ahead a couple of years, we may bring it back if the student population is here that requires it.
Okay. Thank you.
Welcome.
Anyone else?
That's it.
All right. Thank you
Great,
very
thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
Before you go, Mike.
Do we have to vote for
The
it?
committee needs to vote for
All right.
this. The motion that would be in order would be to approve the proposed changes to the high school program of studies.
I'll make a motion to approve the proposal changes to the program of studies for the high school.
I'll
Okay.
second that.
Motion by Ms. Huxtable, second by Ms. Hart. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It is unanimous.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mike. And please feel free to start on your commute home.
I will, thank you.
Well, I think it's
You
pretty
might
bad
get your
out there.
pastrami.
Here we go.